Joseph was born into a family of promise and conflict. He was the 11th son of Jacob, the son of Isaac, the son of Abraham, with whom God had made a covenant. But Joseph was the firstborn of Rachel, Jacob's beloved wife. Her long years of barrenness made Joseph a child of deep affection. From the moment he was born, Joseph held a special place in his father's heart, and this favoritism would eventually stir storms in his life. As Joseph grew, he stood out not just because of Jacob's affection, but also because of the purity of his character. His father gave him a coat of many colors, a symbol of honor that distinguished him from his brothers. They saw it, and they saw what it meant. Joseph was not just loved more. He was being positioned as heir in a household where birthright and blessing meant everything. Joseph was only 17 when he began to have dreams. In one dream, he and his brothers were binding sheaves in the field, when suddenly his sheaf stood upright, and theirs gathered around and bowed down. In another, the sun, moon, and 11 stars bowed before him. He spoke of these dreams, perhaps with youthful excitement or innocent wonder, but his brothers heard arrogance and ambition. Even Jacob rebuked him at first, though he pondered these things in his heart. Jealousy deepened into hatred, and hatred bred a deadly plan. One day, Jacob sent Joseph to check on his brothers who were grazing the flocks near Shechem. They saw him coming from a distance. Fueled by bitterness, they plotted to kill him. "Here comes that dreamer," they said. But Reuben, the eldest, urged them not to shed blood. Instead, they stripped Joseph of his coat and threw him into a dry pit, intending to leave him. Reuben secretly planned to rescue him later. But before Reuben could return, Judah proposed a new plan. A caravan of Ishmaelite traders passed by on their way to Egypt. Why kill their brother, Judah reasoned, when they could profit by selling him? So for 20 pieces of silver, Joseph was sold into slavery, and his brothers smeared his coat with goat's blood. They presented it to Jacob, who mourned deeply, believing his son had been devoured by a wild animal. Meanwhile, Joseph was taken to Egypt and sold to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard. Though a slave, Joseph found favor with Potiphar. God was with him, and everything he touched prospered. Potiphar recognized his wisdom and integrity and made him overseer of his household, entrusting him with everything he owned. But Joseph's trials were not over. Potiphar's wife, captivated by his appearance and character, tried to seduce him. Joseph refused, saying, "How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God?" Day after day, she pursued him, but he stood firm. One day, when no one else was around, she caught him by his garment. He fled, leaving his cloak in her hand. Humiliated and scorned, she falsely accused him of trying to assault her. Potiphar burned with anger and had Joseph thrown into prison. Yet, even there, God's favor remained. The prison warden soon recognized Joseph's trustworthiness and gave him charge over the prisoners. Whatever Joseph did, the Lord made it prosper. In time, 2 of Pharaoh's officers, the chief butler and the chief baker, were imprisoned. One night, they each had troubling dreams. Joseph noticed their distress and offered to interpret the dreams, making it clear that interpretations belonged to God. To the butler, he foretold restoration in 3 days. To the baker, he sadly predicted death in 3 days. Both interpretations proved true. Joseph asked the butler to remember him and mention him to Pharaoh, but once restored to his position, the butler forgot. 2 full years passed. Then Pharaoh himself had 2 disturbing dreams, one of 7 fat cows devoured by 7 gaunt ones, and another of 7 full heads of grain consumed by 7 thin, scorched ones. None of Pharaoh's magicians or wise men could explain them. At last, the butler remembered Joseph. Joseph was summoned from the prison. He was quickly shaved and dressed and brought before Pharaoh. Pharaoh told him the dreams, and Joseph, giving glory to God, explained that both dreams carried one meaning. There would be 7 years of great abundance in Egypt, followed by 7 years of severe famine. The dreams were doubled, Joseph said, because the matter was firmly decided by God and would come to pass quickly. Joseph advised Pharaoh to appoint a discerning and wise man to oversee the storage of grain during the years of plenty, to prepare for the years of famine. Pharaoh and his officials saw the Spirit of God in Joseph and recognized his wisdom. So Pharaoh appointed Joseph himself. In a single day, Joseph rose from prisoner to governor over all Egypt. Only Pharaoh would be greater in rank. Pharaoh gave Joseph his signet ring, clothed him in fine linen, placed a gold chain around his neck, and had him ride in the 2nd chariot of Egypt. He gave him the Egyptian named Zaphenath-paneah, and gave him Asenath, the daughter of a priest, as his wife. Joseph was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh. In the years of plenty, Joseph traveled throughout the land, organizing the gathering of surplus grain. He stored vast quantities in cities, so much that they stopped counting. During this time, Joseph had 2 sons, Manasseh, meaning God has made me forget all my toil, and Ephraim, meaning God has made me fruitful in the land of my affliction. When the 7 years of abundance ended, the famine struck, just as Joseph had said. It was widespread, affecting not only Egypt, but surrounding nations as well. People came from all lands to buy grain from Egypt, and Joseph opened the storehouses. Back in Canaan, Jacob and his sons felt the sting of the famine. Hearing that there was grain in Egypt, Jacob sent his 10 eldest sons to buy food. Benjamin, Joseph's full brother, remained behind, for Jacob feared losing him as he had lost Joseph. When the brothers arrived in Egypt, they bowed before Joseph, not recognizing him, but Joseph knew them. The dreams of his youth came rushing back. He disguised himself, spoke through an interpreter, and tested them. He accused them of being spies, questioned them about their family, and insisted they bring their youngest brother to prove their honesty. He kept Simeon in custody and sent the rest home with grain, secretly returning their silver. Their hearts trembled when they found the money in their sacks, and they knew something divine was unfolding. Eventually, hunger drove them back. Judah offered to be surety for Benjamin, and Jacob reluctantly agreed to send him. When Joseph saw Benjamin, he was deeply moved. He prepared a feast for them and treated Benjamin with special honor, still hiding his identity. Finally, he devised one last test. He had his silver cup secretly placed in Benjamin's sack. As the brothers departed, he sent his steward to overtake them. The cup was found, and they were brought back, distraught. Joseph told them Benjamin must remain as his slave. Then Judah stepped forward and offered himself in Benjamin's place, pleading for mercy and recounting the pain it would bring their father. His words pierced Joseph's heart. Overcome with emotion, Joseph dismissed his attendants and wept so loudly that all of Egypt heard. He revealed himself to his brothers, saying, "I am Joseph." Is my father still alive?" The brothers were stunned and terrified, but Joseph comforted them. "Do not be distressed or angry with yourselves for selling me here, because it was to save lives that God sent me ahead of you." He explained that the famine would continue, and God had made him a father to Pharaoh and ruler of all Egypt to preserve their family. He urged them to return quickly and bring their father and all their households to settle in Goshen, where he would provide for them. Pharaoh confirmed Joseph's invitation and provided carts and supplies. When Jacob heard the news, his spirit revived. "Joseph, my son, is still alive. I will go and see him before I die." Jacob and his family journeyed to Egypt, and Joseph went to meet his father in Goshen. When he saw him, he fell on his neck and wept a long while. Joseph then introduced his family to Pharaoh and settled them in the best part of the land. Thus, the boy once cast into a pit now stood as governor of the greatest nation of the time. God had taken him through betrayal, slavery, and prison only to lift him up for a purpose far greater than his pain. The dreams had come true, not only the ones of grain and stars, but the dream of a life directed by the hand of God for the saving of many lives.